Nathan Cross stared at his phone screen, watching his carefully planned empire teeter on the edge of disaster. The 34-year-old tech billionaire had built Cross Industries from nothing, turning a small software startup into a global powerhouse worth $20 billion. But now everything hung in the balance because of one missing piece: a wife he didn't have. The mahogany conference table in his penthouse office reflected the city lights of downtown Seattle as Nathan paced behind his leather chair. Tomorrow's merger with the Asian Pacific Consortium would either make him the most powerful tech mogul in the world or destroy everything he'd worked for. The consortium's traditional values demanded proof of stability, family commitment, and cultural respect. Ambassador Chen Wei, the consortium's lead negotiator, had made it crystal clear during their last video call. Mr. Cross, the ambassador, had said with a polite but firm smile, "We believe a man's success in business reflects his success in personal life. We look forward to meeting Mrs. Cross at tomorrow's dinner. A wife's presence shows commitment to building lasting partnerships." The problem was simple, yet devastating. Nathan Cross had no wife. His relentless focus on business had left little room for serious relationships. He dated plenty of women, but none had understood his drive or shared his vision. Most were attracted to his wealth and status, not the man behind the empire. Victoria Sterling, Cross Industries vice president of international relations, sat across from Nathan with her usual calculating expression. Her silver hair was pulled back in a perfect bun, and her sharp blue eyes held a mixture of concern and barely concealed ambition. "We could postpone the dinner," she suggested, though her tone suggested she knew it wasn't an option. "Absolutely not," Nathan replied, his voice tight with frustration. "The consortium has other offers. We delay, they'll sign with Yamamoto Tech instead. We need this deal, Victoria. It's not just about the money. It's about positioning ourselves for the next decade." Victoria leaned back in her chair, a slight smirk playing at her lips. "Well, unless you can produce a wife in the next 18 hours, I don't see how we're going to pull this off." Nathan stopped pacing and turned to face the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city.
Somewhere out there was a solution.
He'd overcome every obstacle in his path to success. This couldn't be the one that stopped him. The elevator chimed softly as Nathan made his way to the lobby, his mind racing through impossible scenarios. He could hire an actress, but the risk of exposure was too high. The consortium's people were too smart, too connected. They'd see through a fake immediately. As he passed the reception desk, he heard a familiar voice speaking in what sounded like perfect Mandarin. Nathan paused, turning to see Celeste Rivera, the company's newest receptionist, handling a complex call with apparent ease. Her dark hair fell in gentle waves around her shoulders, and her warm brown eyes showed complete focus as she switched seamlessly between languages. "Yes, I understand the shipping concerns," she was saying in flawless Mandarin. "Let me transfer you to our logistics department, but first let me explain the new protocols in detail." Nathan watched, fascinated, as Celeste then switched to what sounded like Japanese, then Korean, handling each conversation with native-level fluency. He'd hired her 3 weeks ago based on her impressive resume and professional demeanor, but he'd had no idea about her linguistic abilities. When she finally hung up, Nathan approached the desk. "Celeste, that was incredible. How many languages do you speak?" She looked up, her cheeks flushing slightly at the unexpected attention from the CEO. "Oh, Mr. Cross, I didn't see you there." "I speak 9 languages fluently, sir. It's always been a natural talent." 9 languages, Nathan repeated, his mind beginning to formulate a wild idea, including Mandarin and Japanese. "Yes, sir. Also Spanish, French, German, Russian, Portuguese, Arabic, and English, of course."
Yes.
Nathan studied her face, noting the intelligence in her eyes, the poise in her posture, the natural elegance that seemed to emanate from her despite her simple business attire. An idea began to form, crazy, desperate, but possibly brilliant. "Celeste, I need to ask you something unusual," Nathan said, glancing around to ensure they were alone in the lobby. "Could you come to my office for a moment?" She looked surprised but nodded, following him to the executive elevator. As they rode up in silence, Nathan tried to find the right words for what he was about to propose. The elevator opened to his private office, and Celeste stepped inside, her eyes wide as she took in the luxurious space. "Please, sit down," Nathan said, gesturing to one of the leather chairs facing his desk. "What I'm about to ask you is going to sound completely insane." Celeste settled into the chair, her hands folded in her lap. "I'm listening, Mr. Cross." Nathan took a deep breath. "I need a wife. Not permanently. Just for one night. Tomorrow. Night to be specific." Her eyes widened, and he quickly continued before she could speak. "I know how that sounds, but let me explain. The Asian Pacific Consortium merger depends on tomorrow's dinner meeting. Their cultural values require that I appear as a stable, committed family man. Without a wife present, they'll likely withdraw their offer. Mr. Cross, I don't understand what you're asking me to do. I'm asking you to pretend to be my wife. For one evening, the consortium's representatives will be expecting Mrs. Cross to attend the dinner. Your language skills, your natural poise, you could pull this off." Celeste stared at him in shock. "You want me to lie to these important people? To pretend we're married? I know it's asking a lot, but I'm desperate. This merger isn't just about money. It's about jobs, innovation, the future of technology. If this deal falls through, I'll have to lay off thousands of employees." Nathan reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a leather folder. "I'm prepared to offer you $50,000 for one evening's work. All you have to do is appear at my side, smile, and maybe exchange a few pleasantries in Mandarin with Ambassador Chen Wei." Celeste's breath caught. $50,000 was more money than she'd ever seen at once. It would solve her mother's mounting medical bills, pay off her student loans, and give her a fresh start. But the ethical implications made her stomach turn. "Mr. Cross, I appreciate the offer, but I can't lie to people like that. It goes against everything I believe in." Nathan leaned forward, his green eyes intense. "I understand your reservations. But sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures. I'm not asking you to hurt anyone or do anything illegal. I'm asking you to help me save my company and the livelihoods of thousands of people." Celeste stood up, pacing to the window that overlooked the city lights. "Why me? Surely you have other options." "Because you're perfect for this," Nathan said, rising to join her at the window. "You're intelligent, articulate, and you speak the languages that matter most to the consortium. But more than that, there's something about you, an authenticity that can't be faked." She turned to face him, and Nathan felt a strange flutter in his chest. Standing this close to her, he could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes, the subtle curve of her lips, the way her hair caught the light from the city below. "What exactly would I have to do?" she asked quietly. "Attend the dinner as my wife. Engage in conversation with the consortium members. Show them that I'm a man who values partnership and commitment. That's all." Celeste was quiet for a long moment, her internal struggle evident on her face. Finally she spoke. "I have conditions. Name them. First, I want the money up front. I want a written agreement that protects both of us. Third, if anyone asks direct questions about our relationship, I won't lie. I'll deflect or change the subject, but I won't create elaborate stories." Nathan nodded eagerly. "Agreed. Anything else?" "I want to know exactly who will be at this dinner and what they'll expect from me. I need to prepare properly, of course. My assistant will provide you with detailed profiles of all the attendees. We'll also arrange for you to have appropriate attire, nothing too flashy, but befitting a tech mogul's wife." Celeste extended her hand. "Then we have a deal, Mr. Cross." As Nathan shook her hand, he felt a jolt of electricity pass between them. Her skin was soft, but her grip was firm, confident. For a moment they stood there, hands clasped, eyes locked, and Nathan wondered if he was making the biggest mistake of his life or the best decision he'd ever made. The next morning arrived with a flurry of activity. Nathan had arranged for a personal stylist to meet Celeste at an upscale boutique in downtown Seattle. As she tried on elegant dresses and practiced walking in designer heels, Nathan found himself thinking about her constantly. There was something mysterious about Celeste Rivera that went beyond her linguistic abilities. She carried herself with a quiet confidence that spoke of hidden depths experiences that had shaped her into someone far more complex than a simple receptionist. Victoria Sterling, meanwhile, was growing increasingly suspicious. "I don't understand. Why you won't tell me who you're bringing to the dinner?" she said, cornering Nathan in his office. "I should know who will be representing our company." "It's handled, Victoria. That's all you need to know." Her eyes narrowed. "Nathan, if you're planning something reckless, it could destroy everything we've worked for. Trust me," he said, though he wasn't entirely sure he trusted himself. As evening approached, Nathan stood in his penthouse apartment, adjusting his tie for the third time. The dinner was set to begin in 2 hours at the exclusive Fairmont Olympic Hotel. The consortium's representatives would be expecting to meet. Mrs. Cross and Nathan's entire future hung in the balance. His phone buzzed with a text from Celeste, "Ready when you are." Nathan smiled despite his nerves. Whatever happened tonight, it would certainly be memorable. He just hoped that by morning he'd still have a company to run and that he'd be able to look Celeste Rivera in the eye without feeling like he'd crossed a line he could never uncross. The Fairmont Olympic Hotel's ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and the soft murmur of international elite. Nathan Cross stood at the entrance, adjusting his platinum cufflinks for the 5th time as he waited for Celeste. The consortium members had already arrived. Ambassador Chen Wei with his distinguished delegation, representatives from Tokyo's biggest tech firms and Seoul's most influential investors. Victoria Sterling mingled near the bar, her sharp eyes scanning the room, like a predator seeking weakness. She'd been asking pointed questions about Nathan's mysterious wife all day, and her suspicion was growing dangerous. Then the elevator doors opened, and Nathan's breath caught in his throat. Celeste Rivera stepped out wearing a midnight blue silk dress that hugged her curves perfectly while maintaining an air of sophisticated elegance. Her hair was styled in a sleek updo that showcased her graceful neck,
Nice.
adorned with simple diamond earrings that caught the light as she moved. But it wasn't just her physical transformation that struck Nathan speechless. It was the confidence radiating from her every step. "You look, Nathan," began as she approached, then found himself unable to finish the sentence. "Like a billionaire's wife?" Celeste asked with a slight smile, though he could see the nervousness flickering in her eyes. "Like the most beautiful woman in the room," he said honestly, offering his arm. As they entered the ballroom together, conversations gradually hushed. Nathan felt the weight of dozens of eyes assessing them, judging whether this woman was worthy of one of the world's most successful men. He needn't have worried. Ambassador Chen Wei approached them first, his weathered face breaking into a diplomatic smile. Nathan felt Celeste's hand tighten slightly on his arm, but her expression remained serene. "Mr. Cross," the ambassador said in accented English, "it is my great pleasure to finally meet your lovely wife." "Ambassador Chen," Nathan replied, his voice steady despite the hammering of his heart. "May I present my wife, Celeste?" What happened next exceeded Nathan's wildest expectations. Celeste bowed slightly, a gesture perfectly calibrated to show respect without appearing subservient, spoke in flawless Mandarin. "The honor is mine, Ambassador. Nathan has spoken so highly of your wisdom and vision for the future of technology." The ambassador's eyes lit up with genuine delight. "Your Mandarin is exceptional, Mrs. Cross. Where did you learn to speak so beautifully?" "I studied languages in university," Celeste replied smoothly, still in Mandarin. "I believe that true understanding comes from speaking the language of the heart." Nathan watched in amazement as Celeste seamlessly worked the room. She switched to Japanese when speaking with the Tokyo representatives, discussing everything from traditional tea ceremonies to modern architectural trends. With the Seoul investors, she spoke Korean while sharing insights about the intersection of technology and culture. But it was more than her linguistic abilities that impressed everyone. Celeste possessed an innate understanding of when to speak, and when to listen, when to defer to Nathan, and when to shine on her own. She asked intelligent questions about the consortium's expansion plans and offered thoughtful observations about international market dynamics. "Your wife is remarkable," Ambassador Chen whispered to Nathan during a quiet moment. "She understands the delicate balance between Eastern and Western business philosophies." Nathan nodded, unable to take his eyes off Celeste as she laughed at something one of the Japanese executives had said. The sound was genuine, musical, and it made something warm unfurl in his chest. She's full of surprises, he replied, and realized he meant it. As the evening progressed, Nathan found himself forgetting that this was all an act. Placed her hand on his arm during conversations. When she looked at him with those warm brown eyes, when she spoke about their shared vision for the future, it felt real. Too real. The critical moment came during the main course, when Ambassador Chen raised his glass for a toast. To partnership, he said, looking directly at Nathan and Celeste. May your success in business be matched only by your happiness in marriage. Nathan felt his throat tighten. This was it. It's a moment when everything would either fall into place or come crashing down. Celeste raised her glass, her eyes meeting Nathan's across the table. To partnership, she said softly, and to the courage to take risks for what we believe in. Their glasses touched with a soft chime, and Nathan saw something shift in Celeste's eyes. For a moment, the pretense fell away, and he saw the real woman beneath the performance. Someone who was as complex and driven as he was, someone who understood the weight of difficult decisions. The toast was echoed around the table, and Nathan knew they had one. The consortium was convinced the merger would go through. But as he looked at Celeste, radiant in the candlelight, he realized that success had come at a price he hadn't anticipated. Somewhere between the first handshake and the final toast, pretending to be married to Celeste Rivera had started feeling like the most natural thing in the world. That terrified him more than any business deal ever could. The dinner ended with handshakes, promises of future collaboration, and the signing of preliminary agreements. Nathan had done it. The merger was secured, his company was safe, and thousands of jobs were protected. But as he walked Celeste too, her car in the hotel's parking garage, the weight of what they'd accomplished felt oddly hollow. That was incredible, Nathan said, his voice echoing in the concrete space. You were absolutely perfect in there. You convinced them completely. Celeste stopped walking and turned to face him. Under the harsh fluorescent lights, he could see the exhaustion in her eyes. The emotional toll of maintaining such a complex performance for hours. Did I convince you to? She asked quietly. The question hung in the air between them, loaded, with implications that made Nathan's chest tighten. What do you mean? I saw how you looked at me in there. Toward the end, it didn't feel like acting anymore. Nathan ran a hand through his hair, disturbing its perfectly styled appearance. Celeste, I need to tell you something, she interrupted, her voice barely above a whisper. Something I should have told you before we agreed to this. A chill ran down Nathan's spine. What is it? I'm not who you think I am. She took a shaky breath. My real name is Celeste Rivera. Ambassador Chen Wei is my grandfather. Nathan felt the world tilt beneath his feet. What? He doesn't know I work for Cross Industries, he thinks. I'm still in graduate school, studying international business. I haven't seen him in 2 years, not since she paused, her voice breaking slightly. Not since my father died. Your father. Chen Ming. He was the ambassador's son. My mother. Is Maria Rivera from Mexico? My father died in a car accident when I was 22, and there was a falling out between my mother and my grandfather over cultural differences, expectations, traditions. I chose my mother's name to distance myself from that world. Leaned against a concrete pillar, trying to process this revelation. So tonight, when you were speaking with your grandfather, he didn't recognize me at first. I've changed a lot in 2 years. But toward the end of the evening, I could see recognition dawning in his eyes. Kept staring at me, trying to place where he'd seen me before. Why didn't you tell me this before? Celeste wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly looking vulnerable despite her elegant appearance. Because I needed the money. My mother's medical bills, my student loans. I thought I could get through one evening without him recognizing me. I thought I could keep my 2 worlds separate, but he figured it out. Not completely, but he's suspicious. Before he left, he asked me about my family, about where I grew up. I deflected, but he's not a fool. He's one of the most intelligent men I've ever known. Nathan began to pace, his mind racing through the implications. If he realizes who you are, if he connects you to me, he'll think you deliberately deceived. Him, that you orchestrated this entire evening as some kind of elaborate manipulation, which would destroy not just the merger, but any future business relationships with the consortium. They stood in silence for a moment. the weight of the situation settling over them like a heavy blanket. "There's something else," Celeste said, her voice so quiet he had to strain to hear it. "What?" "I recognize someone else tonight, Victoria." "Sterling. She was at my father's funeral." Nathan's blood ran cold. "That's impossible. Victoria never mentioned knowing your family. She didn't just know my family. She worked for my grandfather's company 5 years ago, before she came to Cross Industries. She was part of a failed merger attempt between Chen Enterprises and an American tech firm. The deal fell through because of cultural misunderstandings, communication breakdowns." "Are you saying Victoria knew who you were tonight?" "I'm saying Victoria might have orchestrated this entire situation. Think about it, Nathan. She's the one who insisted that the consortium's requirements were non-negotiable. She's the one who told you that you needed a wife to secure the deal. And she's been suspiciously interested in who you were bringing to the dinner." Us. Nathan felt pieces of a puzzle clicking into place, forming a picture he didn't want to see.
Ah!
"You think she planned this?"
Ah!
"I think she saw an opportunity when you hired me. She knew my background, my connection to the ambassador. She may have even influenced the consortium's requirements somehow, but why would she want to sabotage the merger? Maybe she doesn't want to sabotage it. Maybe she wants to control it. If she can expose our deception at the right moment, she becomes the hero who saves the deal. She could position herself as indispensable to future negotiations." Nathan's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Victoria. "We need to talk. Now." "My office." Celeste saw his face pale as he read the message. "What is it?" "Victoria wants to see me." "Tonight, Nathan, don't go. Not until we figure out what she knows." But Nathan was already walking toward his car. "I have to. If she knows something, I need to control the damage before it spreads. Then I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not. You've done enough. More than enough." Celeste caught up with him, her heels clicking against the concrete. "This is my fault. My family, my connection to the ambassador. I got you into this mess." Nathan stopped and turned to face her. In the dim light of the parking garage, she looked fragile but determined. "You didn't get me into anything. I asked you to help me, and you did. Brilliantly. Whatever happens now, I'll handle it. What if you can't? What if this destroys everything you've worked for?" Nathan reached out and touched her face gently, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. "Then at least I'll know I spent one perfect evening with the most extraordinary woman I've ever met." For a moment they stood frozen in that gesture, the space between them charged with possibility. Then Nathan dropped his hand and stepped back. "Go home, Celeste. Get some rest. Tomorrow, everything will be different." As he drove away, Nathan caught sight of Celeste in his rearview mirror, standing alone in the parking garage, still wearing the midnight blue dress that had made her look like a real billionaire's wife. He had a feeling that by morning, he might wish she actually was. Victoria Sterling's office was dimly lit when Nathan arrived, her silhouette sharp against the city lights beyond the windows. She turned as he entered, her expression unreadable. "Sit down, Nathan. We have a lot to discuss." The dinner, it went perfectly. The consortium is satisfied. Victoria's laugh was cold. "Oh, I'm sure they were charmed by your lovely wife. Especially Ambassador Chen Wei, who seemed quite taken with her." Nathan felt his stomach drop, but he kept his expression neutral. "What's your point, Victoria?" "The point is that Celeste Rivera Chen is the ambassador's granddaughter." "Did you know that when you decided to use her as your fake wife?" "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, Nathan. I've known who she was since the day you hired her. I was waiting to see what you'd do with that information." Nathan leaned forward, his voice dangerously quiet. "What game are you playing, Victoria? The same game you are? Survival." She moved to her desk, pulling out a thick folder. "Do you know what this is?" "It's a complete dossier on every member of the Chen family, including our dear Celeste. Compiled it 5 years ago when I was working for Chen Enterprises. You used to work for them? I was their lead negotiator for Western expansion. Until a deal fell through because of cultural misunderstandings and family drama. Sound familiar?" Nathan's mind raced. You orchestrated this entire situation. I simply provided an opportunity. You're the one who chose to take it. What do you want? Victoria smiled, and it was the most terrifying expression Nathan had ever seen. I want what I've always wanted. To be indispensable. To be the one person you can't succeed without. By blackmailing me? By being the one who solves your problems? See, Nathan? Ambassador Chen already suspects who Celeste is. He's been making inquiries. By tomorrow morning, he'll know for certain that you deceived him. Nathan felt the walls closing in. So you've destroyed everything. On the contrary, I've given you a chance to save it all. Victoria opened the folder, revealing documents and photographs. I have information about the consortium's real expansion plans. They're not just looking for a merger partner. They're looking for a way to acquire Western technology companies and bring them under Chinese control. That's impossible. The merger terms clearly state. The merger terms are just the beginning. Then 5 years they plan to gradually absorb Cross Industries completely. To be nothing more than a figurehead CEO. Nathan stared at the documents, his mind struggling to process this new information. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm offering you a different path. We expose their real intentions to the board. We position ourselves as the ones who uncovered their deception. You become the hero who saved American technology from foreign takeover. And I become the vice president who helped you do it. Eventually, when you step down, I take over. Nathan stood up, pacing to the window. Below, the city sparkled. With lights, each one representing lives that would be affected by his decision. What about Celeste? What about her? She was just a tool in your plan. A means to an end. That's not true. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Don't tell me you've developed feelings for your fake wife. Nathan turned back to face her, and something in his expression made Victoria step back. She's not fake. Not to me. Nathan, be realistic. She's a receptionist with a complicated family situation. You're a billionaire CEO. This isn't a fairy tale. Maybe not, but it's real enough. Nathan moved toward the door. I'm not going to destroy the consortium deal. Victoria, and I'm not going to let you use Celeste as a pawn in your ambition. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. Nathan left Victoria's office with his phone already in his hand, dialing Celeste's number. She answered on. The second ring? Nathan, is everything okay? Where are you? At home. What happened with Victoria? I need to see you now. There's something I have to tell you. I'll be right there. An hour later, Celeste sat in Nathan's penthouse living room, still wearing the midnight blue dress from the dinner. Nathan had told her everything. Victoria's manipulations, the consortium's hidden agenda, and his own decision to reject Victoria's plan. So what happens now? Celeste asked. Now I do something I've never done before. I tell the truth.
Oh.
Who? To your grandfather? To the consortium? To everyone. Nathan knelt in front of her chair, taking her hands in his. I'm going to tell them that I was so desperate to secure this deal that I asked an employee to pretend to be my wife. I'm going to tell them that you were so generous and brave that you agreed to help me, even though it went against your principles. Nathan, that will destroy the merger. Maybe. But I'd rather lose the deal than lose my integrity. I'd rather lose everything than lose you. Celeste's eyes filled with tears. Can't mean that. I've never meant anything more in my life. Nathan stood, pulling her up with him. Celeste, what started as a business arrangement has become something real, at least for me. For me too, she whispered. Then let's stop pretending. Let's make this real. Celeste smiled through her tears. Are you asking me to marry you, Nathan Cross? I'm asking you to give us a chance. See if what we felt tonight was just good acting or something more. And if the consortium withdraws their offer, then I'll build something new, something better, something honest. Celeste reached up and touched his face, the same gesture he'd made in the parking garage. What if my grandfather never forgives me for the deception? Then we'll work to earn his forgiveness. Together. 3 months later, Nathan Cross stood in the same penthouse office where this story began, but everything was different now. Consortium deal had survived, transformed into a more equitable partnership after Nathan's honest confession had. led to deeper negotiations built on mutual respect rather than deception. Victoria Sterling had resigned and started her own consulting firm, though she'd sent a surprisingly gracious wedding invitation response. Yes, wedding. Because it turned out that when you find someone who speaks 9 languages, understands your drive, and is brave enough to help you save your company, you don't let them go. Celeste entered the office, now wearing a simple engagement ring and a smile that made Nathan's heart skip every time he saw it. Ambassador Chen called, she said, settling into the chair across from his desk. He wants to know if we're free for dinner next week. Your grandfather is finally warming up to me. He says any man who would risk everything for honesty and love has the makings of a good husband. His words, not mine. Nathan came around the desk and pulled her into his arms. And what do you say? I'm still getting used to the idea that I'm going to marry my boss. Former boss? You're the new director of international relations? Remember? Right. So now I'm marrying the CEO. Much better. Nathan kissed her, and it was just as electric as their first handshake, just as real as their first honest conversation, just as promising as their first dance at the consortium dinner. Some deals, Nathan reflected, are worth any risk. The India'll like this video if the story touched your heart, subscribe for more emotional tales, and share with someone who believes in the power of true love. And let us know in the comments. We love connecting with our global community of romance lovers.